My parents gave my son a $15 gas card while my nephew unwrapped a PS5, iPad and cash. He tries harder, Dad said. I didn't argue. I closed one bank account. While my nephew was still ripping the plastic off of a PlayStation 5, my father gave my son a gift card to a petrol station that was worth $15. All of us were gathered in a circle in the living room of my parents, which was the type of room with cream carpet that nobody allowed you to put shoes on, but everyone somehow managed to spill cranberry sauce on it. Glitter and artificial snow were being shed by the tree. Logan Pierce, the son of my sister, was sitting on his lap with a brand new iPad and a huge envelope stuffed with cash tucked under his knee. He was cautious not to let the money get lost in the paper pile. Someone has wrapped a blue ribbon around the PlayStation 5 as if it were a brand new infant. Noah Bennett, my kid, was holding a recycled Santa card that had a logo of a gas station securely taped inside of it. He was 12 years old. I trained him to be more kind than the world is typically, and he expressed his gratitude by saying, "Thank you, Papa." He seemed to mean it since he is polite. It was loud enough for my sister to smirk, my father added. Logan is putting forth a lot of effort. The grades are getting better. It is not a secret to you. Each effort is rewarded. The report card for Noah was still attached to the refrigerator in my home kitchen. He received 2 brief compliments from his professors regarding his charity, and he received straight A's. Math had been a difficulty for Logan. Because my sister had phoned me in August to inquire about the possibility of securing $120 for her son's tutoring, I was aware of this fact. It was brought to my attention. Some of my hands began to shake. The way I behave when I'm upset is like that. A quiet and non-explosive sound. The muscles in my neck tighten, and my hands quiver as if I were shivering. I did not make any statements. Some of the ripped packaging was heaped up by me. After discovering the ribbon that had been wrapped around the PlayStation 5, I was able to free it from the dog's paw grip. When Noah was finished, he leaned against me and tucked the card into his pocket. It is a tendency of his to do that shoulder to shoulder, as if he is trying to ensure that I am steady. The peppermint shampoo that he chose because it tingles was the one that left his hair smelling like peppermint. My palm was placed against the back of his head, and I took a deep breath. During the time that Mom was fussing with the trash bag, she told me that I should write something upbeat about the family in my column, such as how holidays continue to sell newspapers. A further joke was told by Dad, but nobody laughed at it. In order to satisfy their aversion to actual smoke, the television aired a loop of a fireplace. It was a buzzing room. In the manner of a question, the blue ribbon was curled up on the ground. Neither of us argued. No, I did not beg. I observed Noah as he observed them. It was clear to me that it would be the final occasion on which my child would sit on the carpet and wait for his turn to be compared to the child of another person in front of everyone. Claire Bennett is my name. My age is 38. The bottom of a small brick 3-flat that I rent in Chicago, which is located close to Albany Park, is where I make my home. By profession, I work at the city desk. There are tales about budget hearings and potholes that swallow tires, and my byline runs beneath such situations. I enjoy working with numbers. I am a fan of receipts. The section when things stack up is one of my favorites. My son Noah was 3 years old when I became a single mother. I spend time with his father also. It is the type of co-parenting that I enjoy the most since it is amicable and uninteresting. Noah maintains a low profile. When he is in a noisy environment, he will look about for the one individual who is in need of assistance, and then go and provide it. Due to the fact that he considers it to be a sophisticated treat, he gives me coffee-flavored hard candy from the bodega. In my family, I have always been considered the one who is in control of everything. I established a separate bank account that I titled Family Sundays, right after I was elevated from the position of night police bladder to the position of City Hall. I did it in order to salvage my sanity. A single account to pay for the countless insignificant things that made my parents and siblings feel as though they were being held. It began with things like groceries. I placed an order with Instacart to deliver $225 every week to the address of my parents. Bread, eggs, and coffee are all things that my father claims does not cause him to have heartburn, despite the fact that it does. I then added utilities because my mother preferred a little higher temperature for the air conditioner, and my father pretended that he was unaware of the bill. The monthly cost ranged from $95 to $135, depending on whether or not it was summer. The cost of water is around $39. I used their internet card since my father was having trouble loading the crossword puzzle, and he blamed the city rather than the router. On Sundays, I was the host of the meal. That wasn't even on the account that was being used. All I did was act in my own way. I went to IKEA and purchased a big table as well as 4 more seats for drop-in guests. The lasagna I made was large enough to feed a small unit, and I also prepared a pot roast and roasted chicken. I had a drawer full of birthday candles since none of them ever remembered who was turning what. All of them were in the same drawer. Due to the fact that my brother Ethan Bennett never maintained his tires, I spent a lot of time fixing a flat tire that was in my trunk. The larger stuff were also paid for by me. The roof of my parents' garage cost $8,400, despite the fact that my father had said he would fix it himself and then sat there for 6 months staring at the shingles that were drooping. Car insurance for my sister for a period of 3 months, during which she fell behind by $750. A couple occasions, Logan is providing tutoring. The lake house in Michigan that I reserved via Vacation Rentals, VBO, every August. There are 6 bedrooms. A veranda that overlooked seas that were so flat that they transformed the sky into an upside-down star. The cost of booking Ali is $3,650. To everyone, it was referred to as our custom. I made the initial payment using my card in February, and the second payment was made in June. The marshmallows were brought by anyone who remembered to bring them. Money was not the only factor. The group texting and the planning were the culprits. Can you please phone the rental property and inquire about the availability of a grill? Is it possible for you, Claire, to move supper by an hour because of the Bears game? Considering that Logan invited 2 more children to his party, Claire, would you be able to pick up some additional cupcakes? I was the one who had an extra calendar that everyone else had borrowed. Not only was Noah present throughout everything, but he was also invisible. On the occasion of his birthday 3 years ago, my mother presented him with a sweater that still bore the name of my brother, written in Sharpie on the tag. She remarked, "We didn't know what you're into," while Logan was unboxing new headphones and yelling into his phone about how amazing Grandma was. "We wanted to know what you're into." They went to a trampoline park on Cousin's Day, which is a meme that my sister came up with for Instagram. However, they failed to ask Noah if he would want to join along. Oh my God. It was almost too late to do it. I questioned her via text message about the absence of Noah's face in any of the photographs. At the time, he was sitting at my kitchen table painting superheroes as everyone else. The colors of the candy that they enjoyed were used to create their capes by him. The photo was discovered by me the next morning as I was vacuuming the floor. It had been placed beneath a chair. It was reckless in certain respects. Some of it did not have a thoughtless vibe to it. During the year that I declined my brother's offer, the tone shifted. During the time that he was selling bogus concert tickets, he asked me to co-sign a loan for him and his friend Ryan Cole, so that they might start a bar. It would have been quicker for the loan officer to just affix the "nope" on the document. After that, he began calling me Cheap Claire whenever he wanted to harm me and my wealthy sister when he needed anything. I told him, "Ethan, I love you, but absolutely not." After telling him that, he began calling me Cheap Claire. He became more subdued. It was revealed to me that he had informed my aunt that Claire is doing so well that she is not even noticing a tiny bit more. As a result of a little more, I was able to keep the family phone plan for 2 months while my sister was figuring out how to use Venmo. After that, I continued to do so for 3 months, and then it became simpler to discontinue the plan altogether. I kept telling myself that I was constructing a net that would be able to accommodate all of us, that I was doing what I wished someone had done for me when Noah was a newborn, and I was bouncing him with one knee while composing a narrative about potholes that had devoured a bus. In my head, I persuaded myself that it was only a passing phase. But I reminded myself that the family was more important than the money. When we arrived, we found ourselves in the living room that had the blue ribbon and the cream carpet. And my father informed my son, who was a straight-A student, that he did not deserve a genuine present, but my nephew, who was a youngster and not responsible for the decisions that adults made, was held up like a donation plate. It has nothing to do with a gaming console. Whoever counted the envelopes as they were passed around and who was always expected to pick up the check were the subjects of this discussion. While Noah was driving home, he gripped the $15 card in both of his hands as if it were going to bite him. When I am feeling unhappy, I look at the road because it allows me to pretend that I am concentrating on something substantial, such as a lane line, rather than all of the chaotic thoughts that are going through my brain. He remarked, "It's okay, Mom." I responded with a straightforward and truthful, "No, it's not." He made an attempt to say, "I enjoy candy from gas stations." After then, he let out a small dry sound of laughter. It was only natural that we stopped for milk when I asked, "Can I use it for gummy worms?" It was because he believed I would like it that he purchased gummy worms and a Christmas crossword that could be scratched off. No victory was ours. He cheered as if we had already won the game. While he was at home, he sat on the couch with a book that he had received from his father's parents. He wore a beanie over his hair, which was shampooed with peppermint shampoo. Putting my palm on the refrigerator, I was able to feel the cold that penetrated the metal. It was as if I were looking at a bill when I saw his report card, which had notes on how he had assisted a new kid in learning how to use the lunch line. Use clean columns and numbers to provide evidence. I positioned my laptop on the table in the kitchen. I had to. Place a folded napkin below the table in order to prevent it from wobbling, and the table had a mark on it from when we moved. I logged onto the website of my bank. The initial Midwest two-factor authentication, which is represented by the small spinning circle that causes you to pause and reconsider your decisions for a moment. Under my personal checking and savings accounts, the checking account that I use on Family Sunday was included in the list. I made a click. $9,116.48 was the remaining amount. Depending on who was looking at it, it may have felt like a lot, or like nothing at the same time. In the bottom right corner, a list of upcoming payments was scrolled down like a to-do list. At a cost of $189, Instacart is slated to arrive every Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. Commend AutoPay is waiting for 0204, which is $98.64. It costs $41.25 for the water department. The VBO balance that is due on 06152 is $3,050. At noon tomorrow, the group text that we use on Sundays would explode with questions about what time dinner is and whether or not Ethan could bring his buddy. Additionally, I would email the address to my cousin, who claims not to know where I live, on the fifth occasion. I hit the open chat button and posed a query to the bank bot in order to determine whether or not I could do this task without the assistance of a person. The bot informed me that I would have to make a phone call. That's fine. I reached for a pen. Therefore, in order to avoid any more inquiries, I contacted the bank from the number that they recognized. During the time that I was sitting there, my cat smelled the Instacart receipt that I had attached to the refrigerator using a magnet that said, "World's Okayest Cook." I was listening to the recorded voice that told me that my call was important. Melissa, a female, appeared on the stage. "How are you, Claire? In what ways may I be of use to you?" "One of my bank accounts has to be closed," I remarked, and my voice sounded like it belonged to someone who had intended to do this for a long time, but simply didn't know when the perfect moment was, which I think was true. I said this because I wasn't sure when the proper time was. Typical inquiries about security were posed of me by her. The final four of my social security number, the name of my mother before she married, and the remaining sum on my most recent deposit. If there was anyone else on the account, she inquired about it. It was always me, as I stated before. In the manner in which someone learns your routines and spends them, the family simply had access to the information. "Are there any payments that are still outstanding?" She inquired about it. For the reason that I never lie to customer service, I answered in the affirmative. However, I would like to immediately close the account. I am aware that payments that are still outstanding will be refunded. That is not a problem. She attempted to provide a price reduction. "We are able to maintain the account, and you are able to halt the automatic payments." "I am grateful for it," I stated. I'd want to leave it at that. I could see that she was feeling a little bit of sadness for me, in the same way that strangers might occasionally feel when they hear you struggle with something. "All right, Claire. Where would you like the balance that is still available to go next?" In the end, my personal savings amount to $448. Then I observed her typing. I saw the movement of the numbers. "Regain some of the power you lost." A confirmation number was read out to me by her. The Instacart magnet was where I wrote it down. I read it back to myself using my reporter's voice, which is clear and precise. "My debit card for that account should be destroyed," she instructed me to do. I took it out of the drawer, which was white, and I used the kitchen scissors to split it in half. The logo of the bank had been worn off from so many years of using the scanners at grocery stores. Despite the fact that it was the reverse of a grand opening, it felt like cutting a ribbon at the event. My response to her question, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" was, "No, that's it." As I shut down the laptop, I reminded myself that we do not owe outsiders all of the stories that lead up to our selecting ourselves. It was not me that texted the family. There was no subweed on my part. I did not write a speech while looking in the mirror in the restroom. After walking back to the living area, I encircled Noah with my arm and embraced him. We were watching a culinary show in which everyone was getting along with each other and nobody brought up the subject of report cards. When I woke up the following morning at 9:11, my phone rang. The conversation we had on Sunday became more heated. "What time is dinner time, Mom? We are going to bring Ryan, Ethan. Now he is relaxed. That mac and cheese dish that you made the last time is what Sister Logan desires. At this time, I am not hosting this week." Every 3 dots flashed. Then, "Mama, are you feeling ill?" "You?" "No." "Drama, it's Ethan." "Is this because Logan received the punishment that he deserved, sister?" "Don't be so petty, Claire, your father. Incentives for hard work are not illegal." I positioned my phone so that it was facing down. Despite the fact that there were just 2 individuals seated at a table that was shaky, I baked pancakes with chocolate chips since I knew that Noah would interpret it as a sign of a celebration. I received an email from Instacart at noon with the subject line, "Payment failed." At 12:18, my mother sent me a text message asking, "Groceries aren't going through. Is everything okay with your bank?" My phone's ringer was turned off. Each pancake was sliced into squares by myself. As if he were a chef who had lost his head, Noah completed the dish by topping it with gummy worms. I finally stopped being angry. I had finished. The next week they made another attempt. The phone rang. "There is no way for me to know what is going on with the invoices. The light company is reportedly phoning, according to your father. I informed you that you will be required to add your own card to the account." I maintained a steady tone in my speech. Reporters need to be able to mention difficult things such as their weather. The checking account in question was closed. "Why would you choose to act in such a manner? I informed you that I am not your backup bank." "Not cruel at all. In addition, I will not provide financial support to a family that does not include my child." "That is really absurd." Her voice was huffing as she spoke. "Noah is aware that we love him. He is aware of what he has. This post is about a present. It is not the case." She hung up when I told her, "You know it isn't." For a period of 3 days the group chat was inactive. After that, my sister forwarded a snapshot of a message from a VRBO. "Balance is required by the 15th of June. Did your card change?" she wrote, but I turned a blind eye to it. "My life has been altered by me." In a text message, Ethan referred to me as vengeful, although he misspelled the word. He stated that I was acting in this manner because a guy had instructed me to do so. The name of Noah's father was never able to be said by him without sounding like a complete stranger. I was alone myself in my kitchen, laughing. My phone was then put down, and I began folding the laundry. On a Thursday, my Aunt Ruth came to my house and knocked on the door. She walks even when it is snowing because she lives 10 streets away. She had a tin of cookies that had the appearance of having battled with each other in the oven, but they had the flavor of someone who had been a child. I chuckled, and then I sobbed quickly and quietly. She removed her hat and said, "I didn't like that gift." I cried quickly and quietly. Noah acted as if he were 70 years old, and handed her a drink of water. There was a pat on the couch. According to her, she recalled the time when your mother's sisters used to treat me in such a manner. I revoked my departure. They were aware of the situation when the pies came to an end. Every time they took attention to the pies. I said that I had closed the account. "Indeed," she remarked. "Allow them to purchase their own pies." They made an attempt to come over. On the next Sunday, my mother, armed with flowers purchased from the supermarket, appeared on my front porch. The sort that do not matter what you do, they will pass away in 3 days. Her words were, "Let's talk." I responded, "We can talk," as I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. I did this so that Noah could continue to construct his Lego ship without any interruptions. "I am not your financial backup bank. Remove me from your accounts." "No. I am not the host. How should we go about celebrating the holidays?" Her question was asked with genuine confusion. In the same way that everyone else did, I said, "Figure it out together. Share the work or don't." My father kept saying, "It's not that deep, it's just gifts." I responded by saying, "You made it that deep." He then switched to saying, "You're overreacting." I responded by saying, "I didn't react, I took my name off a bill." They attempted to guilt me by writing, "Family shouldn't keep score." During the same week, she made me a Venmo request for $16.49 for a streaming service that she had forgotten was not truly free. I repeatedly spoke my line as if it were the only sentence I was familiar with. "I will not provide financial support to a family that does not include my child." There were occasions when I would add, "You're off my accounts." It was almost as if I was teaching them a new term in a language that they did not wish to learn. It wasn't everyone who left. I received a text message from my cousin Isabel Cruz asking, "Do you and Noah want to come over for pizza on Friday?" She responded, "No gifts, just my loud dog." We went. During the time when Noah was laughing so hard at the dog's attempt to consume a balloon, milk poured out of his nose. During our conversation in the car, he shared with me, "I like it when it's just people who aren't keeping track." He had been using that phrase for several months whenever anything seemed simple. Easter was the first major holiday that I hadn't been able to celebrate as the cruise director. Everyone did not send an address. On Facebook there were no photographs of ham visible. It seemed like a confession when my mother sent me a text message on Monday saying, "We ended up at Qley's." I responded with the following. "Hope the chips were good, it wasn't snark. I genuinely wish them chips that didn't break in the salsa." It is likely that the VBO host had rescheduled our time slot by the summer. A photo of Logan lounging on a lawn chair in a cat pool in their backyard was shared to me by my sister with the title, "Our Lake House." It was a cute shot. It was tapped twice by me. I was serious about it. I really hope that this child spends more time in the lawn over the summer than in living rooms where grown-ups put on shows pretending that simple goods are priceless and that children are just price tags. Ethan continued to badger me. He wrote in August, "You broke up the family," and he meant it. In my response, I replied, "I turned off a faucet you didn't notice was running." He did not offer any kind of response. On Sundays, myself and Noah would make tacos. There were occasions when Aunt Ruth would show up with her cookies. There were instances when Isabel Cruz and her vocal dog showed up. At times, it was just the two of us. We kept the extra chairs folded against the wall and set the table with the two plates that we normally used. Both of these plates were utilized. Because we were by ourselves, there was no silence. There was a lack of activity since nobody was being evaluated. After around 14 months, I was able to make a list of the things that I had overlooked. The only thing I can feel is my exhalation as I read tense group texts and sit in plastic chairs on cream carpet. Still, my parents are calling. There are fewer calls overall. There are times when my father begins by asking, "How is my boy?" And we continue to discuss the weather and whether or not the Sox will ever make it interesting. Once out of the blue he asked, "Did you know that your mother's sister always gave your cousins the expensive doll and you got a puzzle?" He chuckled as if it were a story taken from the past. I did not sign up. In response to my statement that I would no longer be solving puzzles, he became silent in a manner that seemed like he had landed on an idea. A lack of hosting does not mean that I will never offer my door to anyone. My family and I celebrated Thanksgiving in my home with our Aunt Ruth and Isabel Cruz, as well as two of our cousins who opted to express their support for us by bringing pies and paper plates. Because cooking a turkey seemed like a show, I decided to roast a chicken instead. Even though I try to act as though I'm not emotional, I still managed to arrange 2 seats that were vacant. Not a single person occupied those seats. No, I did not gaze. One of the place cards that Noah prepared for me was titled, "Mom, Editor-in-Chief of Sundays." He also drew little tacos in the corners of the card. Following the placement of his new report card and a drawing that he titled, "Our Table," I hung it on the refrigerator. In the drawing he made the chairs that were too big and the plates that were too round. And he made all of us smile in a manner that I had previously believed children would draw when they were trying to persuade themselves of something. However, this time it appeared to be a mirror. The funds were redirected by me. When I closed the account for the first time, I transferred $9,116.48 into my savings account the very same night. In the following month, I opened a 529 plan for Noah with a deposit of $6,000 and a recurring transfer of $250 each month. The statement was presented to him because I believe that it is important for children to be aware of the paths that lead to their futures. He strained his eyes to look at the numbers as if they were a secret code. In response he inquired, "So, this is for college? Or whatever you want to learn," I responded to you. The celebration consisted of gummy worms from the gas station. A $15 card was used by us. It was funny, it was a complete circle, and then it was perfectly fine. The large lake house was not on our agenda. During the month of August, I discovered a cabin in Indiana that had 1 bedroom and was situated on a small river. The owner had left a tackle box for guests, and the mosquitoes were the owners of the cabin. The total cost for 4 nights was $540. Noah was able to reel in a fish that had a fish hook rather than a body. Let it go, we did. Trains could be heard in the nighttime hours. As a result of the fire pit being more ambitious than either of us could handle, we decided to make s'mores in a pan cooking on the stove. He was reading a book on his chest when he fell asleep. My column was about a woman who had stood up with a receipt and asked the city to explain itself. It was about a budget hearing, a pothole, and a woman who had asked the city to explain itself. There was no member of my family involved. It was unnecessary for me to do so. The moral of the story is that my parents have learned their lesson, and now we all eat at the same table. This is the perception that some people have. However, that is not the plot. The tale goes that I stopped paying for a table that had rules that my son would never violate and instead constructed a table in which every person who sits is visible to everyone else. It is now quiet within my boundary. This does not require an announcement to be made every Sunday. I repeat it with the same level of composure as the weather. I am not your financial backup bank. No longer on my accounts are you. I will not provide financial support to a family that does not include my child. The moment my father brought a bag of oranges to my house because they were on sale, he looked around my kitchen as if he were a man who had just arrived in a foreign destination. He was fixated on the drawing that was displayed on the refrigerator. He's good, he said on the other hand. I responded, he is. I then sent him home with some tacos that were left over and no calendar invitations. If we do not come, the cream carpet will continue to be clean. If I don't put a napkin underneath my table, it will start to shake. But that is sufficient.